Hi everybody, welcome to Tech Tip Friday. I'm Kurt Staley, that plastics guy, and I'm bringing you a tech tip that you can take to the shop floor with you today. And the subject of today's Tech Tip Friday is chemical foaming agents, sometimes known as a blowing agent. I may use those two terms interchangeably, but we are talking about the same type of product. And the impetus for this is based on an actual project I'm working on right now with one of my customers. So when do you think you might require a blowing agent or a foaming agent? Well, if you have an extraordinarily thick part, that could be the first indicator that maybe this type of additive would be beneficial. The foaming agent or blowing agent works by releasing gas when it's activated by a certain heat profile in the screw and barrel of the machine. This gas finds its way into the injection molded part, or if we're talking profile extrusion, certainly the same thing will apply. It finds its way into the molten plastic that's put into a tool. In this case, I'm thinking injection molding, so that's the framework that I'm going to go with. And what does it do to the part? The part becomes, well, imagine the cross-section of an Aero chocolate bar to some degree. You have bubbles or cells within the structure of the part. So you're using less base resin because that space is now occupied with air cells. Think of it that way. Now when that happens, you have less resin in the tool, so you're able to decrease the cycle time. You can actually, in some cases, greatly reduce the pack and hold time. So if you've displaced super hot resin that takes a long time to set up in the tool before the demolding process can start, you've replaced that with air, which cools much quicker. The overall cycle time can be reduced and you get your part out a little bit faster, which is great. And I can't tell you it's going to reduce it 20% or 50% on cycle time. Every part geometry is so different, you have to run your own DOE, design of experiment, to figure out. But I can tell you that a blowing agent or foaming agent, the percentage that they're used at is very, very low, relatively speaking, to the overall composition of the part. So a typical letdown might be 0.5%, maybe 2% at the high end. So again, they're all working, regardless of the chemistry, and I'll get into that in a moment, they're working by creating an air cell structure in the part, displacing the base resin. So this can allow the part to come out of the machine quicker, cycle time reduction, but it can also take up some minor sinks or voids, but beware, we are creating gas, so that can introduce splay into the A surface of the part. So it's something to keep in mind. And you can minimize that by reducing the percentage of the blowing agent that you actually put in. So checking my show notes, and I want to make sure I get this right, there are two main chemistries of blowing agent. One is the endothermic, which it releases carbon dioxide, and that produces less gas and smaller cells. So that would, in my mind, be more likely suitable for smaller parts, smaller overall parts, or parts that potentially have still a thick wall stock, but relatively speaking, not as thick as a super large part, where you might want to consider the exothermic blowing agent, which releases nitrogen. And the nitrogen, more nitrogen gas is produced, and you get larger cells. Remember the Aero chocolate bar cross section. You get larger cells in the part. So those are the two. And the third type, which I don't have experience with, is a mix of the two chemistries, endothermic and exothermic, to create even more bubbles, different size. I can't tell you specifically where that would be a good fit, but I would suggest if you have questions, contact me and I'll work with the supplier. In this case, Bergen International. They are manufacturers in the United States of chemical foaming agents, and they're incredibly knowledgeable and very friendly and happy to help in any way. So I hope this Tech Tip Friday gives you just a little bit of a better understanding of chemical foaming agents and where they would be used, a little bit of the how and the benefits. It's a great tool in your toolbox when you're dealing with stubborn parts. So we're going to get one of these products sampled, run with my customer, and hopefully we'll have some good results that we can put into production, and we'll take it from there. So until next Friday, have a great Friday, a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Bye for now.